Welcome to Old Warden, home of the Shuttleworth collection, and more specifically, welcome to the Shuttleworth Military Airshow 2019. The Military Airshow was the 5th Shuttleworth Airshow of the year, marking the halfway point of their airshow season. The show attracted an unparalleled lineup of warbirds, not least the largest formation of Hawker Hurricanes in the UK since 1946, as well as visiting aircraft from Germany and Jordan, and the collection's own aeroplanes dating from as far back as 1910. Let's take a look at the running order. 2 visiting aircraft, the P-47 and B-17, come early in the programme. Then we've got the debut of a newly restored SE-5A. The Royal Jordanian Falcons are in 10 minutes, a pair of Avro 504s at the quarter-hour mark, and 7 Hawker Hurricanes immediately after that. In this episode, I'm on my own again. Tim Passmore joins me next time from the Kansas City Aviation Expo, but let's focus on the Old Warden action now, as we watch the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight Hurricane Mark IIC landing on. And as you can see, Old Warden is a very characterful grass airstrip set deep in the Bedfordshire countryside. With its curved crowd line, relaxed atmosphere and favourable lighting, it is rightly considered one of the UK's premier airshow venues. The first display of the day is one that we are seeing for the 3rd time this series, P-47D Thunderbolt Nellie B. Opening with a very impressive 8-point hesitation roll. Stu Goldspink at the controls for this solo display today, but 1 week after the Old Warden show, Nellie will take to the air again with 3 other warbirds for the world debut of the new Ultimate Fighters team, and she'll be flying alongside a Bouchon, Mustang and Spitfire. Now we're into the first of the Shuttleworth Collection set-piece displays, with the Blackburn B2 performing aerobatics. These displays really don't give me much of a chance to talk about the individual aircraft as I usually might, because there's just so much going on, often with stacked high and low displays taking place simultaneously. The Avro Tutor and Tiger Moth are down low in the circuit. There were 42 Blackburn B2s built between 1931 and 1937 as the successor to the Blackburn L1 Bluebird. It was used initially by civilian flying schools training pilots for the Royal Air Force, and was then pressed into military service after the outbreak of World War II with No. 4 Elementary Flight Training School. More successful was the Avro Tutor, which first flew in 1929 with 606 examples built. Finally, to the right of your screen, the enormously successful Tiger Moth. Nearly 9,000 were constructed, and they were used by the armed forces of 39 nations, including the United States Army Air Force and even the Luftwaffe in small numbers. Gloster Gladiator next, the last biplane fighter used by the Royal Air Force. Gladiator first flew in 1934 with 700 built and service with 19 nations. It was one of the few aircraft to see service in almost every theatre of the Second World War, used right across Europe, Africa and the Middle East. But perhaps most notably it was used in the Siege of Malta, when Fleet Air Arm Sea Gladiators provided the island's entire fighter cover. There's even been one instance of gladiator-on-gladiator combat when British gladiators fought Iraqi ones during the Nazi-backed Iraqi coup of 1941. That battle even saw one gladiator-on-gladiator kill, courtesy of pilot officer Anthony Watson of the Royal Air Force, and the British went on to win that conflict. Gladiators also served in the Pacific Theatre during the Second Sino-Japanese War in the hands of the Chinese Nationalist Air Force, where they scored several kills against the much more advanced Japanese Mitsubishi A5M before being transferred to the training role. The largest aircraft at the show, B-17G Flying Fortress Sally B from Duxford. Sally B is the only B-17 flying in Europe, and it's owned and operated by Ellie Salingbo's B-17 Preservation Limited. The Shuttleworth collection again fill the sky during the next slot, this time with a pair of monoplane trainers. Here is the Hunting Percival Piston Provost, the predecessor to the BAC Jet Provost and the Strike Master, the former being a particularly long-serving and popular jet training aircraft. And even more successful, the Chipmunk. This is probably the greatest aircraft ever to come out of Canada, with 1,200 examples built. Most of those were constructed under licence in the UK for the Royal Air Force, who only retired the type in 1996, some 50 years after it first flew. The Portuguese Air Force operates 6 of them to this day, and they are also the workhorses of many gliding clubs around the world, an extremely durable aircraft. Another big set piece now, with 4 aircraft sharing the sky. First up, this privately owned but Old Warden based Royal Aircraft Factory SE5A making its airshow debut.
SE5A was designed by H.B. Folland at the Royal Aircraft Factory at Focke-Wulf, and that's what RAF stood for in that era, not the Royal Air Force.
Also of 1916, the Bristol M1, rather less successful. The M1 went against the Royal Flying Corps' preference for structurally stronger biplane aircraft at the time, but seeing as several had already been built, they were pressed into service anyway, and in total just over 100 were constructed in the end.
Controls the fuel air mixture.
Sopwith Camel taking off, also very successful. And yet another design of 1916. 5,500 built, and it served with 14 nations. Time for a change of pace, with an act all the way from the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, flying 4 extra 330 LXs and displaying at Old Warden for the first time, the Royal Jordanian Falcons. The Falcons are a very unique partnership between the state, the military and civilian companies. The pilots come from the Royal Jordanian Air Force, the aircraft from Royal Jordanian Airlines with vital support from the city of Aqaba, and the kingdom's royal household who've tasked the team with promoting Jordanian goodwill around the world. They do that, and they do that prolifically with their annual European tour and also a planned visit to North America in the coming years. Watch now as the 4 aircraft draw a heart in the sky, a new manoeuvre for 2019. The team began life in 1976 with 2 pit specials. They then progressed to 4 aircraft and upgraded to the Extra 300, transitioning to the Extra 330 LX for the 2018 display season.
And they're German aircraft as well. The Germans are back in pieces. They are here in the UK peaceful skies. It's very much
Now the Hashemite break. The slot pilot crosses the rest of the formation, who perform a very challenging half roll from inverted. And now watch for the split. And this is absolutely incredible. The most dynamic formation rejoin you will see at any airshow. Number 4 crosses the other 3 aircraft in knife edge before both elements pull up into opposing loops. And on the downline, number 4 slots right back into position with the other 3. The skill required to do that cannot be underestimated. The Royal Jordanian Falcons practice 3 times a day in Aqaba to make sure they can get this right every time. A slow roll in box formation, again immensely challenging. And the final manoeuvre of the display, the Concorde break. Here's something we don't very often see in the UK, a Focke-Wulf FW44 Stieglitz.
Directly above us now, pulling up into the first loop of the sequence. And this is set to be a copybook display, I'm sure, by Tobias Ruppel in the Focke-Wulf FW44 Stieglitz.
This aircraft holds the distinction of being one of only 2 aeroplanes to have won an Olympic gold medal when competition aerobatics was introduced to the Berlin Games of 1936. The displays were actually performed within the track and field stadium, so the routine had to be extremely compact. Almost all the competitors were German and flew German-built aircraft, and the medal went to Graf Otto von Hagenberg, who was flying a Stieglitz like this one. Another set piece featuring 2 of the 3 airworthy Avro 504s in Europe. It was so nearly all 3. One of these is owned by the Shuttleworth collection and the other by Matt Boddington. Also taking part the Newport 17, notable for its half-sized bottom wing, liked by pilots as it gave excellent downward visibility. The Avro 504 first flew in 1913 and remained in production until 1932. Many of the 11,000 examples were built under license in Japan and the Soviet Union, among others, and the type served with 38 nations in total. The Avro 504K is a two-seat training variant, although some were converted into single-seat fighters for anti-Zeppelin work.
Was the night invisible orphan nest, varnished orphan nest, early form of camouflage of this aircraft was a Zeppelin hunter. If you notice, it's actually got a Lewis gun on the top.
Now the centrepiece of the Shuttleworth Military Airshow, as half of the airworthy Hurricanes on the planet come together in a single display for the very first time. A brief solo appearance by the BBMF's Hurricane Mark 2C. Hurricane Mark 1 501, Mark 1 4118 and Mark 7 P3700 in for a tail chase. Shuttleworth Sea Hurricane Mark 1B leads in the second wave. Mark 1 P2902 peels off, Mark 1 P3717 follows the leader. As the Hurricanes end their unforgettable display, we end our programme, as did the airshow itself, with the Shuttleworth Edwardians. We'll see you again very soon from Kansas City, but until then, from me, Adam Landau, it's goodbye for now.